Hello everyone. So today we are starting with Love's Labour's Lost. This is a play by William Shakespeare. As far as the genre is concerned, this is a rom-com, that is a romantic comedy. We will delve into the historical context also, but for now we will begin with the play. I want to save time. This is one of the methodology that I'm using. This is the dramatis personae Ferdinand, King of Navarre, Biron, Longueville, and Domain. These three are the lords attending on the king. Boyet, Mercade, these are the lords attending on the princess of the France. Then we have Don Adriano de Armado. He is a fantastical Spaniard. Sir Nathaniel, he is a curate. Then we have Holofernes, a schoolmaster, Dull, a constable, Costard, a clown, Moth, a page to Armado, a forester, the princess of France, Rosalind, Maria, Catherine. Rosalind, Maria, Catherine are important. These are the ladies attending on the princess, like the three lords attending to the king. Then we have Jaquenta, a country wench, so she is called. Then we have lords and attendants, etc. So this is the dramatis personae for the Love's Labour's Lost. What I will be telling here is how we are going to study this, so that it is a detailed study. Also, we are covering the literary devices used in the play. We are also going to study the themes of the play, and we are going to talk about any other important angle that is required to study the play. The historical context also, if required, will be taken in between the text, middle of the text, or all together once we complete the text, because that will be I think a complete study this way of the text. Okay, let's start with the text now. Just give me a minute. Yes, first we talk about Act 1, Scene 1. In Act 1, Scene 1, we find that the King of Navarre's park is here. Ferdinand enters, the King of Navarre. Ferdinand is the King of Navarre, so he enters. Then we have Biron, we have Longueville, and we have Domain. So in the Act 1, Scene 1, we have these people around. Now what happens? Ferdinand, the king, he is very much or pretty much concerned about a serious matter. And what is the serious matter? The serious matter is about studying. So he says that if we have to attain glory, then we need to study, and we need not waste our time on play and pleasure. We can say this is what he thinks, he believes. So he's talking, or he has started the conversation, the important business, with three of his lords. So here we see that there are basically one thing involved in the very opening of the play, and that is intelligence. That the king is thinking about what is the important matters for the king and for the king's man. Then this is the Act 1, Scene 1 going on. I will explain these start points. These are for my help, but it can become your help too. Then Ferdinand brings in a clause. He says that we have to take an oath, because if we don't take oath, we won't stick by this rule or by this condition. So in order to make it a permanent thing, in order to be steadfast to it, we need to take an oath. So he says all four of us are going to take an oath, and this oath will forbid us to delve into the pleasures of the world, especially the carnal pleasures. All the distractions should be kept aside, and we will not talk to women. Now, what is more important here? He says that women will be excluded from the entire Ferdinand's academy. So, listening to this, the three lords react, and they all react in their own way. So, two of them agree to the king almost when he proposes this idea, but one of them, Biron, he has a different viewpoint which he puts forth the king, but the king passes a sarcasm, and ultimately Biron also agrees to him. He also submits. So this is Ferdinand's idea of bringing in an oath, and that too a strict oath, and this oath will be followed for 3 years. And in these 3 years, what are they going to do? They will not see any woman for 3 years. They will keep a fast weekly. They will sleep only for 3 hours. They will eat, if required, only once for a day, and so on so forth. So this becomes, and also, as I've said earlier, women shall not enter the Ferdinand's territory or academy. Now, using his cleverness with words, Biron, because the other two, Longueville and Dumaine, they agree on the spot, but Biron doesn't agree, and he says that, if we take such a strict oath, if we are abstaining from women, food and sleep, I don't think excessive study is good. So why do we do all this? To which Ferdinand answers, and he says, replies, and he says that, of course, you are very clever, and your this argument in itself tells us that how educated you are. So listening to his sarcasm, he also agrees to what king has to say. Now Biron continues to argue for some time, but ultimately he also spells out the oath, and lastly they all come to what will be the punishment if somebody breaks this oath. So they very, in a I should say official manner, they create a written document, and Ferdinand and Dumaine and Longueville, they sign it blindly. Okay, but Biron has to say something here also, which doesn't matter at all, because ultimately he will also sign, he will also submit. But as far as the punishments are concerned, he says, what will be the punishment if one does break the oath? So he says that if one is breaking the the oath, he will be severely punished. Now the oath here we have one clause that because of Ferdinand, and we can say Biron, is cleverly put here in this oath. He says that for love and romantic purposes, there will be exemption. Men will only contact the women for this business, otherwise they won't contact the women. Now when the readers read this clause, we get to know that here we have a straightforward paradox used by the writer, by the playwright. because in the first paragraphs or in the opening of the play you are saying it will be a strict oath and women will not be allowed, and then slowly we see that there is one clause coming in which loosens their hold on the uh, oath and the oath they have taken, right? So this is act 1. Okay, give me a second. Yes, this is there. The this is the progress of Act 1, Scene 1. Until now, what we have studied, let's no, Scene 1 is not complete, but let's revise what we have studied. We see here personification. We have similes, the use of similes here. Paradox, I have given an example. When we talk about the theme here, we clearly have intelligence and written language as a scene. We have puns used, wordplay is there, and the result of this written language is comedy, which is the genre also. So when we see that if a play has to be a romantic comedy, then the writing or the written language plays an important role. Pun helps it do so, paradox help it do so. So pun, paradox, irony, sarcasm, these are the important devices that a written language uses in a romantic comedy. This is the overall complicated language, which is a very traditional form of language during the Shakespearean times, and this language is used to portray the courtial the environments of the court, and also to create a comedy. So this also brings in effective comedy. It results in effective comedy, and it is the use of overly complicated language in the drama. Irony is also there. Then we have other themes here. Okay, love is another theme, and also man versus women. Here in the beginning of the play, it is man versus women because they don't want women around, so they take the oath for that purpose. So that is man versus women, but towards the closure of the play we will see that it will be man with the women because they break every single oath they take. Sometimes they will say that this is they have chosen one reason, necessity. Ferdinand will use it in the upcoming scenes we will see. So one reason will be necessity, another reason will be the romantic affairs, only for the romantic affairs and love making. So we see that every scene we progress in the play, they will come close, these four men, the king and his three lords, they will come close to breaking the oath, and ultimately they will break the oath. So this is man versus women, but it will become man with women. Obviously they are talking about, from the very beginning of the play, they are talking about work, they are talking about pleasure, and they are talking about comedy. So this is what the scene is talking about. We will talk about scene second in another video, but let's complete scene one in this video. So what Biron sees, then next Biron says that for a king, when king brings in this clause, he thinks and which is correctly so. So he says that okay, for a king it is very easy to come out or to break the oath or to slip out of an official oath, written oath, that is a written oath, because of necessity. Why? What necessity? Because Biron reminds him, we will not be able to follow this oath because for official purpose, you already know, dear king, who is coming. The Queen of France is coming with her noble ladies, like they have the lords. Similarly, we have the ladies here. So king says, oh yes, it is necessity, we cannot avoid this, so for that purpose we will slip out of this written official oath. So Biron thinks that for a king it is very easy to take the oath and to slip out of that oath, right? So the Ferdinand basically here forgets when brings in this idea of taking oath, and he makes the written oath. He, by that time, he had forgotten that the princess shall come, and it is not a clever decision to make, but ultimately they make it and they slip out of the oath also. Now Biron asks if there will be any entertainment for them, because it is a very strict oath. So he says that, what about the entertainment? So for the 3 years will we be bereft of any entertainment? Now Biron is the person who is asking all of this, though Ferdinand also wants uh, uh, some kind of entertainment, but Biron is the one who is asking. Now Ferdinand says that he has a Spaniard named Armado. Okay, and this person sings well and he plays music well, so he will, and he has a clown whose name is Costard. So for 3 years, these two will only be their source of entertainment. So he says that if uh, we have to balance work and pleasure, I think we can take the help of Armado and Costard. So this is the decision they are coming to. Then we have a certain comment on the written language, which I have already spoken about, how this helps in the written, how it is helping in the plot, we can see. So written language is helping in the plot. His only uh, uh, condition is that no one is going to make a crime, and here that crime is bringing the women in the Ferdinand's court for 3 years, because they have to study. Now what happens here, we have a twist, or an something happens, right? What happens? There is a constable, and the name of that constable is Dull. He enters with a letter. Costard also comes along with Dull. Now he gives the letter, which is this letter is written by Armado. Now Costard says that this letter is for Jacquenta. Like we know who was Jacquenta when we studied, when we had a see this thing. Jacquenta is a court wench. See, Jacquenta is a country wench. So when he comes and he says that this letter is for Jacquenta, Ferdinand reads letter aloud. Costard says that he has to defend himself, right? Now letter is written. We have already spoken about it, that the language of the letter, the language of the people here, characters here, is unnecessarily complicated language, and this brings everyone to, this cracks the laughter. So this is the reason of the comedy also, right? So he says that Costard is conversing with Jacquenta, that this letter is meant for you. Now his only crime becomes conversing with a woman, right? And what has Ferdinand done? He seeks to exclude women from his court, right? Costard tries to get out of his punishment, because he knows now the king is going to give me the punishment. So in order to, he said that it is illegal, you have spent time with a wench. Now Costard tries to get out of this punishment, and how he does so, he says that Jacquenta is a virgin, so my talking to her doesn't make a difference. So he's using a wordplay and trying to get out of the punishment. The king doesn't care what he calls her, and he sentences Costard to a week of fasting. But king announces his punishment. He gives the statement. He says that what you have to do, for a week you will go fasting. And what you are going to take, you are only going to take bran and water for this 1 week. Ferdinand sends Biron to take Costard to Armado. Now Costard is punished. Ferdinand says, Biron, you take Costard to Armado, and he is going to be in charge of carrying out the Costard's punishment. That is, he is going to he's going to take care that he follows the punishment, or he is punished, right? So this is Act 1, Scene 1. I hope this Act 1, Scene 1 is now clear to you. This is archaic language that the the playwright has used. We have completed today Act 1, Scene 1. Costard, I suffer for the truth, sir. For true it is. So it is a complicated language, you see. Costard exuent. So Ferdinand orders Biron to take Costard to the Armado, who is going to make sure that he is punished. So this is all for this video. We will meet in the next video and we will complete the play this way. So it is a details. I hope you are able to understand. We have not left anything. This is a detailed study of the act. Also, we have spoken about the themes and everything that is associated with the play. Thank you so much.